you've got to throw some cold water on the situation. Start talking about nerd stuff.
You know, nerd culture is mainstream now, so when you use the word nerd derogatorily, it means you're the one that's out of the zeitgeist.
System activate.
This is NetHeads with Will Wilkins and Trent Hunsaker. It's a tech podcast. But we are a ton cooler than your typical geek, giving you the info you need to achieve mega nerd status. NetHeads.
You guys rock.
And now, here's Will and Trent.
No one listens to the radio. I wasn't even listening. I was listening to podcasts. Podcasts are great. Radio's boring.
That's right, everybody. Podcasts are great. Radio's boring. My name is Will. That is.
I'm Josh.
There we go. There's Josh.
Not Trent.
Nope, Josh Stifter coming at you right now on the ones and twos, spinning the wheels of steel. I don't know what that means. Welcome. For those that don't know, Josh Stifter, animator, owner and proprietor of Flush Studios. You can find out more about him, Flush Studios. You can follow him, Josh Stifter, on Twitter. It's so goddamn easy. Why aren't you already doing it? That's what I want to know.
It's super easy. Also, check out patreon.com/Flush Studios if you want to keep up with all of my crazy insanity and short films and all of the stupid stuff I do. So, yeah.
You recently actually did a lot of production work on that short horror film that you've been wanting to make for a while, right?
Yeah, I've actually done a few short horror films for the Patreon exclusively. I'm trying to push like this sort of new media independent filmmaking idea where I don't know if you remember, like, back in the day, it was like independent filmmakers, you knew everything about them. They were very open about what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to do that sort of thing through the Patreon and show off some of the stuff I'm doing and kind of do like behind the scenes and bonus content as I'm actually working on the films. So that's my new big push. But I did a short film called Chum that's basically a stupid little B movie about a monster that attacks two buddies on a boat. And that's about it, but it's fun, and it was sort of a pitch movie to do a bigger monster movie that I'm working on now.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, I've been all over the place working on a bunch of stuff, but yeah.
Wow, and I come to think of it, man, I think, when was the last time you sat in on an episode of NetHeads? By the way, if you want to take part in the program, you can one of many ways. One on Twitter, #NetHeads, or you can give us a call, 95238-9020. That's Yakabed 9020, 866-610-9455, or last but not least, NetHeads on air via Skype. Thank you. Okay. So how long has it been? Was it actually the earlier part of last year?
No, I think it was like around August, because it was like right around the time I started the Patreon, I think. Maybe. It's hard to remember. When did Star Wars come out? We did an episode about Star Wars at one point.
Which one? Rogue One? The Force Awakens?
Force Awakens, I think.
If only there were this repository on the internet of past NetHead shows that I could look up.
Exactly. So we did a Force Awakens episode long after it came out, and then maybe another 2 months after that we did one. So maybe it wasn't, because that was like December of last year, wasn't it?
I think it was, because one of the hot topics we talked about was the whatchamadoodad that goes to the thingamajig. We talked about Deadpool, which, by the way, now I cannot watch that movie without seeing within the opening scene pretty much just how that entire opening sequence of traversing through the CGI still store, if you will, is really just an animator's pornography, because they're like going all around all of this great detail that they spent so much time digitally animating and special effecting, if you will. It's like, boy, we're gonna really make the render time on this one worth it.
Hell yeah. I still love that intro.
I still love the whole movie. That's one of those ones I can just watch it again and again and again and again and again and again and again.
Yeah, I've seen it only a few. I haven't watched it again and again and again and again and again. I've only watched it 3 times, I think. But nevertheless, that's a lot for me, seeing as how I just don't watch movies anymore. Ever since the the second baby came along. I just don't have time to watch a whole lot of movies.
Interestingly enough, though, you and the wife. By the way, congratulations on the new child. I'm happy to see though that you and the wife did get to go out to see the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
I did. I saw it, and I will. I'll break the news here. I have a whole. I do a podcast with my wife for the Patreon, um, and this is going to be the entire next episode of the podcast. Will be me and her talking about movies that we've cried at. And there's only 2 movies I've ever cried at, and this one is one of them. I actually shed a couple tears watching Guardians of the Galaxy. Believe it or not, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 made me misty-eyed.
Oh, well, you know what? I got to say it also did the same exact thing for me. I was right there with you. As a matter of fact, I cried, and then I thought things were over, and then I cried again. Cuz they hit you with the 1-2 punch of a character passing and then the character's funeral, and then it was like big bang bow boom. And
and it's kind of just relentless at the end and then goes out. It's powerful, but I think the thing that really hit me about the movie was being a dad, I always feel like I don't relate to movies that much because I live in this world where all I do is make movies, make weird B movies and stuff like that, and then dad. Like those are my 2 things that I do. And movies usually aren't about making movies because they don't want to pull you out of it. So there's no relatability in that for me. Like the art, they try to disconnect from the art as much as possible. And then on the opposite end, dads are boring as fuck, man. I don't know if you know this, but no one wants to watch dads. So generally you don't get a lot of that. And finally I saw a movie where it was kind of both. It's about a dad that's creating, who's so obsessed with creating that he can't pull himself away from finding this purpose and this meaning and making stuff. And I'm like, I relate to this fucker. And then there's the other dad who just is a dad. Like he just dads. And they take a while to get to that point, but when they finally do, it's kind of vindicating. It allows me to like step out and go, oh man, you know, when I'm not working and making stuff, I'm not wasting life. I'm being a dad. Like I could kind of relate to the bad guy and the good guy in this movie.
Yeah, that was one thing. Spoilers, by the way. That was one thing that really hit me. It was such a silly statement. Well, not silly statement. It was a very powerful statement, but it was just one that, like, I couldn't even ponder that type of existence because for those that don't know, the protagonist in this movie is a protagonist. I never get the antagonist and the protagonist right. Ego.
Protagonist, good guy, antagonist. Ants are shitty.
There you go. Well, now I'll never forget it. Thank you for that, Josh.
I just made that up.
They are, though. No, let me tell you something. By the way, and you know, I know there are some people that are like, well, I can't make an ant, so why should I kill an ant? Because they're annoying as hell. That's why. Yeah. And for the longest time, we had one type of bug service, and then we changed it over to one that uses more eco-friendly options. I kid you not, 6 months of ants. Then I did a little research, ordered a pesticide, sprayed once, dead as fucking gone.
Yeah, ants are the worst. And I don't know if you know this, but I'm like a hardcore meat eater. I do this keto diet. I live like a caveman.
Oh, okay.
I do this. I basically live like a hunter-gatherer mentality. Like everything I do is based on this hunter-gatherer mentality, to the point where I actually have stuff set up in my backyard to work out. Where I like do pull-ups on trees and throw tires around and spears.
And rocks, big fucking
boulders.
Rocks.
I do, and I tried to convince my wife that we should make this giant woolly mammoth for the backyard that I could just jump on. And just pretend like I'm tackling, just like a caveman. So I live by this caveman mentality. So I totally don't have killing ants. If ants attacked a caveman, I guarantee you that he would kill those ants.
Yes, he would.
So I'm okay with the murder of ants.
Okay, I'm glad. Well, I'm glad we got that position clarified. um, anyway,
This is already the stupidest podcast you've ever done, right?
not quite. No, trust me. So the antagonist, because ants suck, in the movie, turns out is Ego, which we all pretty much saw the writing on the wall.
Yeah.
And the one statement that he makes, though, for those that don't know, as depicted in this movie, Ego, and in the comics, is the living planet. So for him, he's like, I don't know. All I remember is blinking into existence, and he's just represented by this big brain. And then slowly he learns how to manipulate atoms around him, and he ends up building an entire planet and ecosystem and life and everything else all around him. So much so that he ends up developing, for lack of a better term, an avatar of himself to go out and, he experiences life. But the long story short, he's also Peter Quill's dad, and it turns out that Peter Quill, the celestial DNA that Ego gave him, ended up adequately bonding. And just there was that one statement he made where it's like, for the first time, I am not alone. Because it's true, until that point, he was the only thing of him that he knew of. So by creating his son, who now also has celestial DNA, for once there's somebody just like him. I've often, you see in stories a lot of the times these people that are the last of their race. And then that's one thing. Okay, well, they knew who they were, they had their race, and now they don't, and that's really shitty. But, I mean, can you imagine just coming into existence and being the only thing that you know of like you, and that's all you encounter? I mean, that was probably a very powerful moment. It's too bad it turns out he's the bad guy, but, I was really blown away by that. And then just thinking about, I don't know, like the sacrifice aspect of it was very powerful. I think I like that the movie, once again, the Guardians of the Galaxy, kind of relates on the family level, because the first movie is about all of these people with broken families. They've got shitty relationships, or they don't have relationships at all, like Rocket Raccoon. And then the second one was really more about like fathers and how, and family again, but in a way that you make your own family. So I don't know, the good combination of awesome special effects, good storytelling. I can't even think of one part of that movie that lagged for me. I said that last week. I'm repeating myself. I'm sorry.
Yeah, same here. And I went and saw it. We went to the 3D IMAX, and I don't know if I'm pretty positive I went to a 3D IMAX before, but this was we've got this one big 3D IMAX at the Minnesota Zoo that's massive. It's my first time going to that, and I was pulled in. I have never seen a movie that beautiful, and I think part of it was just the experience of being at the 3D IMAX with the sound as big as it is, and the screen being as nice as it is, a 4K screen with 3D, that you just get so sucked in.
Well, and the entire movie, every single scene, every single location, it's almost like it's an album cover. You know what I mean? Just the level of detail and stuff going on.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I liked about the visuals was, yes, every shot is a piece of art, and that is something that has disappeared from filmmaking. That used to be de rigueur. That was the norm. Every filmmaker lived by every shot a piece of art, a masterpiece. And that's part of that was just the fact that it cost so much to shoot film that they had to. They couldn't waste film. They had to set up the shot like it was a masterpiece because they didn't want to waste it. But now you can throw away footage like there's no tomorrow. No one cares. Footage is fucking piss it away. James Gunn didn't do that with this. He took the old school mentality, but without making it too artsy-fartsy. He didn't go pretentious with it. Every shot still told the story. It still was the emotional impact that needed to be told, what the characters are trying to express or what the audience is supposed to be feeling. But it still looked fucking amazing, man. Some of that movie was the prettiest movie I've ever seen in my life.
I think we also, the other aspect of it that I really liked is we got to really see kind of Rocket Raccoon in his element. I mean, he was able to, you figured out how he has survived this long, because he can really hold his own. I mean, he's for lack of a better term, he's a techno mage. You know what I mean? He can turn anything into anything, technologically speaking. And when it comes down to it, man, he just knew some stuff would be happening. He was prepared, and there are just moments in this film he just dropped some serious science on the people going after him.
But they also let him have an emotional arc, which I liked, because as the movie begun, I was like, okay, so what they're going to do with this movie is give Rocket Raccoon the cool moments. Like, he's just going to be the guy who comes in and he's cute, so we're going to give him some action sequences, and then Baby Groot is just going to be the one for the kids, and it was going to be kind of cliched in that way. But they gave Rocket Raccoon and Rooker's character, Yondu, this really nice, subtle arc of almost like brothers and mirror versions of each other. That I really liked that. I like the fact that they didn't make Yondu have this massive arcing story with Rocket where it's like they're bickering and now they're buddies and now they just have this subtle like, hey, I'm a fucking thief and you're a fucking thief. Well, it kind of sucks. Kind of sucks being us, right?
Well, and even more so, I think it was important that in order for Rocket to evolve, he had somebody, lack of a better term, evolve, but he had somebody that pretty much could call him out and just say, look, I know you because I am you. And it's at that moment when he looks into the face of who he is and what he can become, I think that's where he finally realizes he needs to affect some change in his life.
Hell yeah.
And that really kind of hit him. I mean, it's just, look, folks, if you haven't seen it yet, this is one of those movies where, you know, if you're in a shitty mood and you have 2.5 hours to burn, if you go see this, I guarantee you'll walk out having some minor bit of faith in humanity again. Pretty sure, anyway. That's my takeaway from it.
Yeah, and honestly, for me, it was sort of rejuvenating isn't the word, but I haven't seen a blockbuster movie. I've been on this podcast a few times, and if you can't tell, I'm a little bit of a curmudgeon when it comes to like blockbustery movies. I like independent, weird movies. If they cost more than $25, I'm out usually. So this movie, watching it, it was the first time I watched a movie since like forever, like longer than I can remember. That honestly, this movie made me feel like the time, like when I watched Jurassic Park for the first time when I was 13.
Exactly.
And I had this feeling of just like, man, they hit the emotional beats just right. The characters weren't overly cliche. The most emotional character in the movie was Michael Rooker, a man I first saw as Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer in the most vulgar movie I've probably ever seen. Like, if I could go back to being 15 and watch Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer again and know that this man was going to make me cry in the theater someday, I'd be fucking shocked. Like, I never would believe it. And that it definitely made me as a filmmaker go like, oh man, maybe I do want to make blockbusters someday. Like, maybe that's possible. You know what I mean?
Well,
like,
I think the nice thing that's going on here is that you've got somebody who feels, well, if I'm going to do a job, I'm going to do it right. And it's not that it's a Marvel movie, and it's not that it's Guardians of the Galaxy. It really feels like James Gunn knows the characters that he has. He understands the directions they can go or grow, and then he probably comes up with a base story and then builds on that. I mean, it really kept it to basics. If you really think about it.
And that's what it was. Jurassic Park, that is, I mean, besides the crazy science that kind of pulls you in and makes you go like, oh shit, they could bring back dinosaurs. The actual characters, the actual story structure and all of that, by the numbers. Like, it just totally plays out. But it's the characters and the way they interact with each other that pulls you in. And this movie did the same thing, where the actual story structure, it's pretty fucking simple, really. Like, it's taken from stuff that's already been done in Marvel and then mixed with some very simple concepts. It's pretty Act 1, Act 2, Act 3 by the numbers.
But yet at the same time, man, it's the part that kills me the most is it, just like the predecessor, Volume 1, I just don't feel like it's a Marvel movie. I know that may sound stupid, but it isn't.
No, it doesn't at all.
It's a Guardians of the Galaxy movie. That's what it is.
but if anyone should like, if anyone can call this out, like I haven't seen the last 3 Marvel movies. It just I'm not that. I don't get the interest. I mean, I just personally can't watch those movies anymore. I'm oversaturated. And part of it is the fact that I know I have a kid that in a year is going to watch them all a million times, and I don't want to wear it out for myself. But I just like Doctor Strange, I still haven't seen.
You know, I
And
gotta admit, nah. I mean, you're okay.
yeah, and that's what I mean. Like the fact that I am, and it's people, but Guardians, I'm so it's not just a Marvel movie, it's an amazing movie. Like it's
Yeah.
just an amazing movie.
That's the point. That's the point. It really
And the-
they're good movies.
And the comedy too, man. The comedy is some of the best I've seen in a long. The jokes were really good, right?
Yeah.
Like every time Drax is on screen, I was like enthralled.
Well, yeah, because they once again, and I think this was great. This was a great part of it. You know, Drax really doesn't have anywhere else to go as a character per se. He's had his great tragedy. He's had his semi-revenge story by the end of the last movie. So for him now, and they already established he was a very simple character, all they did was play to the strengths of it. That's all they did. They said, let's, you know, we're not going to give him a love interest. You know, he's not going to suddenly, start chumming up with Rocket or anything. No, we'll let Drax be Drax. And he is just so goddamn funny every time he is on the screen. It is, except for the one moment, and we talked about it last week too, just when he and Mantis are sitting on the stairs and he's just sitting there stoic and looking normal, but she as an empath touches him and starts crying. And it turns out that, yes, underneath the veneer, there is still this great internal turmoil and sadness. It was just like, God damn. And that's why he is, you know, Drax, because he's damn. But I guess you got to be kind of strong, because that was the only part of the movie that took me out, by the way. When Drax is on a cable being dragged while they're crashing on a planet, I just imagine, I don't know what he is made of. I don't know what he is made from. But at that velocity, smacking into trees, I just can't imagine how every bone in his body wasn't shattered.
See, and for me, I'm okay with it because it's all such nonsensical magic. That I'm fine with. Like I sit there
you're
going
like, I'd like to remind you, talking raccoon.
exactly.
Like, okay, fair enough.
So, and what I really, here's what happened with this movie, and I guarantee this is true. I mean, I don't guarantee because I don't know, but I feel like James Gunn went to Man of Steel. He saw Man of Steel and he went into the film thinking it was going to be a movie about dads. And it kind of was a movie about dads, but you've got one dad going like, shh, don't tell him who you are. And then another dad going like, I'm dead and I'm some kind of weird hologram magic thing. And then James Gunn went, I'm going to make the good dad movie and I'm going to make it a Superman movie still.
I'm going to make it the complete antithesis.
Yeah, but I mean, that is really in the end of that movie, the last, like, before the Rooker stuff starts to happen, when you've got Pratt flying around, fighting through space and punching his dad, it was Superman. They were a couple of gods fighting each other. That is a Superman movie. And somehow I was still in it. Like, I was still going like, this is an awesome movie. This is an awesome action sequence. I want to know who wins this battle. Now, that's never happened in a Superman movie before. Every Superman movie, I just go like, yeah, Superman's going to fucking win, and stuff's going to happen, and they're going to have some green rocks that get thrown around, and someone's going to cry at some point at the end. But this one, for all I know, they're going to kill Chris Pratt. They totally could have done it, and I wouldn't have been shocked with how the direction that movie went. I call him Chris Pratt, like we hang out.
Yeah, I like that.
But anyone could have died in that movie. And then when it gets to the end, you got Rocket Raccoon telling Rooker, like, welcome to the Guardians
of the Galaxy.
And then I'm like, well, they just welcomed him.
Hey,
they're not going to kill him.
We really didn't talk. Let's ease off on that one little. I think the world knows, but still, there might be a listener here or there that may not know that that Rocket Raccoon becomes the Hulk, for example. They may not know that, right?
Oh, they don't know that fact?
Yeah. So
Okay.
Actually, I got to tell you though, I said this last week as well. My daughter was so tired; she had the longest day. but still wanted to go see the movie. And I'm still convinced I'm a bad dad for actually taking her. So she did have some waking and sleeping moments during the movie. But then when the end credits were happening, I'm like, no, we got to wait. And she's like, I want to go home and go to sleep. I'm like, we can't wait. We got to go. So I didn't see like a lot of those end credit bits. Like I didn't get to see, I think one of them is like Teenage Groot. I didn't get to see that.
Sure.
Did you
So
and the
didn't
wife
see,
stick
you didn't
through?
see any of those? Yeah, I stuck around for all of them. My wife and I stuck around for all of them.
What's the last one I saw? I know I saw the Adam Warlock. I
Yep,
saw
there's
that.
Adam Warlock. Yep. And there's Teenage Groot.
Didn't see that one. I didn't see Teenage Groot, and I didn't see Stan Lee again.
Yeah,
I think
Stanley. That's the last one.
I think those are the two that I missed because I saw the one guy, James Gunn's brother.
Shoot Drax.
Yeah, I saw that. Anyway, but now we're just comparing movie stories, and we're not talking about stuff, and that bugs me on any podcast when it's one of the. And that's the really cool thing that I love is that now we're literally part of a subcategory that is so flooded. It's two or more, reasonably close in age, something or others that are just talking to one another about their interests. How many podcasts like that are there now?
Probably
400 billion.
Yeah, exactly.
And
that's what we're doing.
This is like literally the formula, the easiest formula to achieve. I mean, aside from sitting there and talking to yourself, but I have to say that when you sit there and talk to yourself, you've never been more self-aware of your own voice and your own ridiculous thought patterns than when it's just you solo trying to talk into a microphone for anything longer than 5 minutes.
And I'm actually gonna kind of try to do that in the future, actually. So I'm like doing this whole. I'm gonna do a morning show starting in August, and Mondays I'm gonna be recording with my wife. Tuesdays I'm gonna be doing live art streams. Wednesdays I'm gonna be doing the Art Attack. That's your name, by the way. You came up with that, which I've already been doing the Art Attack podcast. It's on my Patreon right now, where I talk to artists, and it's more of like an interview podcast. But I come up with some weird, fucked up questions to ask them.
Now let me ask you: when you do that, and we'll get into the day after Art Attack as well, but when you do that, do you do it? What's the motivation? What is the motivation in coming up with messed up questions?
So it's not, I mean, they're not messed up questions. Like, they're not fucked up questions. They're more like, when I say messed up, like, they're not just your normal, typical, like, where'd you get started? How you do what you do. They're not those kind of questions. They're, like, specifically tailored to the person who's coming in. So if you're a painter, I'll ask you a question about painting. Like, I'll ask specific things about what you do. I try to look up what people do, or I'll ask like what the motivation is behind their color scheme and stuff like that. The themes.
See, the only thing I could think to do in that situation, because really I don't know what I would ask a painter, but I would literally go to like the craft store and I would get, I don't even know how brushes work, but let's say I would get a 3 brush and I would get a 4 brush, right? And maybe even like, let's say there was a 3, 4, and 5, and all of them are reasonably close, because that's the only way this works. Then you go to them and say, I got to ask you a question, all right? These 3, 4, and 5 brushes, it's bullshit, right? You can do the same thing with any one of these, right? Like, why do and
you know, that's actually not that far from some of the questions I asked. Where
good.
Like the question I asked a painter on the recent one was something about are there any types of tools in painting that you don't like to use, or any that you specifically do like to use? Meaning, because I know for a fact he doesn't just use a fucking paintbrush. Like, I know he doesn't do that. He uses like one of those knives, one of those paint, and he splashes paint, and yet it still comes out looking like a picture. Like, he's very, very talented. But yeah, that is the kind of question I ask, honestly. It is the sort of, do you like using small paintbrushes or big paintbrushes? And then hear what they have to say and where that leads the conversation, and still let it be a natural conversation, and not like, I don't want it to be like an NPR interview. I want it to be like a natural flowing, wherever the fuck the conversation goes, that's where it goes. But I want it to start from questions that aren't just like, yo, you see Guardians of the Galaxy because of that exact thing where it just becomes me and him talking Guardians of the Galaxy. But if he's talking about painting and he's like, I love color schemes, like the color scheme in Guardians of the Galaxy, it could lead to that question. You know what I mean?
I don't know why. I think I heard somewhere some ridiculous like little throwaway blurb, and I didn't follow through on clicking on the link because I wasn't going to take their bait. But I heard somewhere that if for whatever reason James Gunn did try to limit the use of the color purple in this particular movie.
Oh, that's interesting. I read an article with Gunn where he talked about his use of colors and the reason for colors. That makes sense because purple really doesn't elicit a massive emotion. Like purple isn't an emotional color, but like in film school, I wasn't taught anything about purple. Like that wasn't. We didn't have like Wednesday's Purple Day, and we're gonna learn about purple. But we did learn about blues and reds and greens and how they elicit an emotion. Purple is just that's a weird color to use. Now I'm sure you could use it in a really interesting way.
Yeah,
He used a lot of bright pinks and greens, which that's just because he was trying to go with an 80s vibe. But he also used gold to show like pretentiousness and awkwardness of a scene, and he used blues to show obviously like coldness and sorrow, but then also mixed the blue with showing like life and rejuvenation. Like he used two different kinds of blues, which was really interesting. I geeked out on this movie as I was watching it. Like I totally was watching it as a filmmaker, and then also got so sucked in that I forgot halfway through the movie to be watching it like a filmmaker and just started like loving the characters.
just taking in the content. I can, I can imagine though. That must have been amazing to see in IMAX the way you did, because I'm just thinking of the scene where they first arrive on Ego and they travel out of his ship and on this little floating platform, and it's just going through the planet, and there's these ridiculous gelatinous globes that if you touch break into smaller gelatinous globes. Because I saw it as standard, no 3D, just like straight screen. Only because I feel like the IMAX in my theater isn't really so much an IMAX. Probably because I compare it to things like I see at the California Academy of Sciences, where the screen is literally taking up half a dome, and your chair is aligned so you're leaning more back to be a part of that entire experience. And
So
instead, I just come in and I see, oh look, it's a big screen. That's all I see.
yeah. So the one that I'm at isn't like the dome one, but
Right.
it's almost. It is massive, and it circles around you a bit, and you definitely are looking more up than straight forward. Your seat is kind of tilted back, but it isn't. I know which one you're talking about, the massive, huge one. It's like a little version of that, still bigger than anything I've ever seen before in my life. So
And the part that I'm probably missing that you brought up, like, is it's a 4K image there. So
it's 4K plus the sound system is insane. So in a lot of movies I go to, which is one of the reasons I just started hating movies, is I go to the movie and I've got 4 kids behind me screaming while a dude sits next to me chowing down on popcorn, and I'm barely in the movie because there's so much happening around me. This one was so loud and so big and in your face that I didn't even realize. I thought I was in the theater by myself. They're lucky I didn't start J&O while I was there. It was just completely. I was so alone in that moment. At one point, so I've got this buddy Lucan who comes on my podcast every once in a while. He's a super funny guy, but he is Drax. Like he acts like Drax, and as there was even a point where Drax, like he laughs, like how Drax laughs at the inappropriate moments. My buddy has literally said to me, like, "This is so embarrassing for you." Like when I was too drunk one time at a bar, just like screamed, like, "This is so embarrassing." So I just totally relate, and that was the first time in the movie, like. That you know what you've seen him talking about where he says this is so embarrassing for you. That's a solid 20 minutes or more into the movie. And at that point, that was the first time I remembered, oh shit, I'm in a theater with people, and turned to my wife and said, like, that's fucking Lucan, right? But I made it that far into the movie before remembering I was in a theater. That's how engrossed in it I became, which is awesome. Like I felt like a kid again. I really did. I don't have any other way to describe it except for the theater, the experience, the movie. Now, if the movie had sucked, I probably would have been like, wow, this theater's really pretty, but there's a lot of people in here.
I can't
Is
even
that guy-
imagine what a 4K image must look like that's on a big projected screen, because I guess it all depends on the refresh rate, because there's still, and I'm not even in the 4K range in my life. There are still versions of HD that I just can't handle, like when they get into the 240 hertz or megahertz or whatever it is, and you've got that just hyper reality. My mind can't process it. It looks at it and goes, that image is too clear. I can't absorb this.
Yeah, and you want to know what actually? I think the thing is that's I saw X-Men in that way. I saw X-Men 4K, the last one, Apocalypse or whatever. And I was kind of pulled out of it because it was so detailed that I could see like hairs on their cheeks and like the littlest details, and it made me forget. Like I could see the makeup clumps on their face, and it made me just kind of forget that I was watching a movie, and instead I kind of was paying attention to the little details at points. Generally, I still was totally engrossed, but I definitely thought that was a thing. Like I could see myself being distracted by little details. Now with this, because of the 3D, you get soft focus on things, and your mind gets distracted by little details in the background because you're trying to focus on things that maybe aren't the focal point. And James Gunn used that. He knew that people would do that. He purposely pulled focus to things like at the beginning of the movie when Baby Groot is dancing around and there's things happening in the background. That stuff is very distant in 3D. I'm sure in a regular theater, you can kind of focus on everything that's happening. You can kind of see Baby Groot, and you can kind of tell that someone's falling in the background and stuff. In this, all I could do was focus on the distance or focus on Groot. I couldn't do two things at the same time. And that sounds like a negative, but the truth is like it's not. It's a positive because it made me have to focus more. I couldn't be focusing on what was happening around me.
You know what else I found kind of funny about that opening sequence? In many ways, it felt like, and I know this is going to sound stupid, but it felt like the Haunted Mansion. If you go to Disney and you go on the Haunted Mansion, because that entire experience is one where they tell a narrative and you're in an environment and they're specifically directing you to what they want you to see. And in some ways, when that moment was happening, when we were following Dancing Baby Groot, I kind of felt that way. And then I just saw it in plain 2D. I really felt like I could tell that they were trying to direct me through that to see certain aspects. And in many ways, it is. It's like at the moments where there's some serious action and there's like another Guardian there, then it does give you a little bit more of that focal detail or focal push or something. Just enough to keep you engaged to remind you, yeah, there's this other thing going on.
Yeah, it pulls you back and forth. And in the 3D, it really made me bounce between things. Or I had to actually decide what I wanted to watch. And that immediately pulled me into the movie more so than any other movie I've seen in a long fucking time.
I wonder if that's also part of the strategy to get people to go back again and again, is just there's so much detail. You want to go back to experience it all.
And maybe it's not a strategy of like, we're going to put asses in the seats. Maybe it just comes down to the fact that he's going like, I know people are going to watch this on DVD again, and they're going to want to watch it with their kids, or they're going to want to watch it. Like, it's me giving James Gunn the benefit of the doubt a little bit, in as much as I think as a filmmaker, he just wants to make stuff that's fun and knows that there's going to be repeat viewings. Although you wouldn't know that it's a fun movie from the last half hour, as I was crying all over myself, going, I haven't cried this.
Well, dude, you're a dad. You've got kids. That one was going to get you no matter what.
Yeah, but I talked to other dads who it didn't hit that hard, and I don't think it was the dad element as much as the juxtaposition of creative dad and just being a dad. Like, it was actually the sentiment that went along with the dad, because like I remember in Age of Ultron, was it? Hawkeye goes home to his family.
Yeah, I think that was I think that's when they went back to the ranch.
And that was that movie actually kind of surprised me, because I saw at that scene, I was like, fuck yeah, a dad. Like, they've made a super dad. And then the movie kind of, it just became kind of like people yelling at each other while no one died. Typical, like, Marvel movie. And but it did give me this hope that maybe they would do something for the death. But I didn't cry, or it wasn't like an emotional hit. This was just like it wasn't the fact. It wasn't the fact of what ends up happening to Rooker or what happens in the movie. It was it it was the fact that it's the actual sentiment of like fighting that oh my god, why am I blanking? Ego kind of tells a story or sings along with a song and tells this idea of like, I'm meant for the sea. That's what he says. Like basically like, I'm meant to work. That's his like that's the whole sentiment of what he's saying is like, my job is what's important. And that's an important statement to me. Like that hit me where I'm like, wow, they're making like workaholic dad a bad guy right here. Like
Well,
really
I mean, with his master plan, you got to admit, Homeboy truly was what I would consider,
Yes.
He was just all about the work. That was it. I mean, they jokingly say you can't have everything where would you put it, and he did. He wanted everything.
Yeah, but there's still, I mean, on the like the more mild side of that, if you really like take away from it if you simplify that idea, he is the workaholic dad who's always working and that's all he cares about. And I kind of am that sometimes. So it really struck me because it's like, yeah, I work 100 hours in a week some weeks, and I don't sleep because I'm busy animating. After I get done with my 40 hours of work a week, I still put in another 40 to 50 hours. And there's days where I don't do, because I feel like I have to, get my shit done. But there's days where I just want to spend time with my kids. And the movie felt like it was justifying that just a little bit. Or it's saying like, yeah,
Just a tad.
it's okay. It's okay to
okay.
just be with your kids sometime and be their daddy.
Yeah, definitely, it is. And I need to do it.
I'm gonna fucking cry just talking about the movie now. Look what you're doing.
I need to do it more because literally, I thought about this today. And this is nothing to complain about, but I work from home, so because of that, I might put in a little more time than I should sometimes, or things stretch out, or if I decided to get a little extra rest, I got to make up that time. But more often than not, it's my kid must just think that the youngest one, the oldest one knows I go in and out of stuff like this, but the youngest one probably doesn't even know what to think, because there are times I'll literally come from doing a job in here to going out there to do another job, and then it's time to cook dinner, and then I got to finish up other job, and then I'm going to bed again. And it's like, wait a minute, didn't I wanted to work from home so I'd get more of my life back? I'm doing something wrong. What is it?
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm not complaining, folks. I don't want to give that across. But I just realized that I'm not giving enough time to my kids, and I'm supposed to because I'm here more now.
And me neither. Like I'm not. It also isn't a complaint from me, and it made me. The fun thing being, like, I kind of related to Ego in a weird way, where I got where he was coming from, which made the character more fun to watch. Like, I like a bad guy where I can relate to him over just, I'm a bad guy, I want money.
Well, I think the other nice thing, too, was with Ego becoming the antagonist, because ants suck, with Ego's plan, at least it makes sense, It's like, Ronan in the first one, okay, he was a religious zealot, and he just hated Xandar with a passion or whatever it was. But what is the driving motivation there? Nothing. He is just a prick to be a prick. That's all. That's all he's there for. Ego, at least, there was some rhyme or reason to his master plan, because it really is like a logical conclusion. I'm the only thing like me, so what if I instead make everything else me?
Yep.
I could at least see where that connection would come from.
100%. And as like an artist, that's kind of, it's you putting yourself out there. I mean, that's to me was the metaphor of like, he's just putting all of himself out there, doing everything he can to put it all out. And he's an artist in a weird way.
I had to crack up because Trent pointed out something that was very obvious for me. The opening sequence when Baby Groot is dancing in this movie is literally a metaphor for the entire rest of the movie, because they're protecting batteries, and you've got this massive creature that wants to consume the batteries, and the Guardians have to fight him off, and then Drax ends up bringing in the part of the story that they have to attack it from the inside, and it's just like
oh, that's hilarious. I didn't put that all together. I thought it was interesting that the first movie opened with him dancing around during a kind of weird, like, action sequency moment, and then this one they replaced Chris Pratt with Baby Groot dancing around in a
well, it's
goofy
like I said
action.
last week. They knew what people wanted. Just give it to them right up front. That's what they did.
That's okay. That's the thing I'm learning as a filmmaker. The more and more I try to figure this whole game out, it's a matter of giving people what they want or tricking them into thinking they know what they want, or knowing what they want and making them think they want something else, but then giving them what they wanted in the end.
I'm so confused now.
Yeah, it's very strange. Your face was amazing. Where you're like, what the fuck is he talking? No, so
I know. I'm just sitting there going, wow, where's this going?
yeah, so I read this book a while ago called Save the Cat, which is all about like the rules of filmmaking and stuff like that. And I started for a while, for like a year. Everything I did revolved around Save the Cat. And like all of my professional work was Save the Cat related and trying to follow these rules. And nothing worked. Like everything felt broken. I'm like, why the fuck does it feel broken? It's because you can't follow the rules to a T. You have to change things up. You have to use half of the rules and then twist expectation on the other half. So you're giving people what they want partially, but you're also not giving them what they want, because they don't, if they don't know about it, they can't want it. You know what I mean?
Okay,
Is
I'm
any
finally
of this
now.
making
Yes,
sense?
I'm finally with you.
Okay.
Well, because like as an artist, you're looking to create, and you want to create your thing. So you have one of two choices there. You can make something that it has greater appeal, but may not be what your creative option is, or it's creating what you want to create and then finding a way to get people to appreciate it.
Or it's totally. Or it's like, if I'm making a horror movie, here, I'll just give a little inside baseball into my feature that I'm working on right now. I'm working on my horror film, and as I was trying to figure this movie out, horror, not horror. I saw your eye. Okay.
No, I'm good. I understood.
So I'm working on this horror movie, and there's a plot point in the movie, so it follows act structure. Act 1 goes normal, Act 2 goes normal, but then Act 3 I was struggling, because Act 3 should go one direction, but I wanted it to go a different direction. Like, the audience is expecting one thing to happen, and I want that to happen. But if it happens just straight up like the way they expect it, they're just going to go like, okay, so this fucking movie just happened. Like, there's no twist. There's no interesting moment. There's no climax. There's no change. So to make a change up, I went back to Act 1 and threw off the perspective there. And so that Act 1, the audience is going to think, oh, they were just fucking with me about this thing. So then when it gets to the thing that they actually wanted, it's playing out kind of the way you want the movie to, because that's the way the movie should play out. And that's kind of how Guardians goes, where you want it to go a certain direction, you want certain beats to happen, you want things to happen, and it keeps kind of changing slightly. So you don't, with every expectation that it breaks, you don't really know where it's going to go. If they kill Chris Pratt, you wouldn't be overly surprised, because you'd just go like, oh, this movie was kind of always breaking expectation. So throwing off people's expectation, and then the movie plays out exactly the way you want it to. Like, no one's going to watch that movie and go, that's not what I saw happening. It is what you saw happening, but you wanted it to. So it's satisfying.
Yeah, it does. It paints by the numbers, but it uses its own numbers. It's weird. And then the end result is exactly what you were expecting.
Yeah, it's really awesome. I was going to ask you, have you kept up on the Wonder Woman stuff? Like the trailers and whatnot?
Yeah, I've seen the trailers. I've followed it. I mean, my big thing with Wonder Woman is I don't know if Warner Brothers and DC has learned to make a good movie yet. So, I'm wondering if everything that's cool about it is what we're seeing on the small screen, if you will.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up. Does it feel like that trailer tells you the whole movie? Am I the only one who
Sort
felt
of.
like I watched it and I was just like, okay, so the first act is her like as a kid and growing up before she goes to World War II, and then she goes to World War II and fights a bunch of Nazis, and that's the movie? Because
No,
they're not
there's something more going on, but
okay.
that part they haven't shown us. And
When does that
hopefully
movie come out?
it's coming. You know, I feel like it's coming out like right around the corner. If it's not coming out this month, it's coming out the early part of next month.
Yeah, so
And you know, that was the other thing too. I hadn't thought about, but Trent brought up, and then I think also Kevin brought up recently on a podcast as well. I think it may have been on Edumacation, where he's just like, or maybe Fat Man on Batman. He's just like, this movie's right around the corner, but you know, I'm not really seeing the marketing for it. And
I'm
that's
not
when I
seeing
realized I haven't seen any marketing for it.
I mean, I've seen trailers, like like normal trailers, but at the same time, I I haven't seen a bad guy. Like, is there a villain in this movie besides Nazis?
Not that I that's the part we don't know. That's the part we're
Okay.
not seeing.
And they're keeping that a secret.
Yeah. Well, you know, there's only
Interesting.
there's only so much of the stuff you can do, you know, in show. I mean, because really, like everything, that was the other thing that was kind of a blow away moment to realize, pretty much almost all of the advertising and trailers and TV spots and commercials for Guardians we saw, pretty much the majority of that came from like the very opening of the goddamn film. So they effectively used a very concise 10 minutes to break it up into a lot of chunks for us to see, and not spoil the movie for us. Because there you go in, you see the most of these bits, and you suddenly realize, wait a minute, there's a whole lot more movie here than I was even expecting. They didn't show me anything. So Wonder Woman could be doing that. And I'm wondering if they're not really doing the advertising push because of, you know, they think they've got something they don't need to advertise and still cash in on. It just doesn't make sense to me because I thought that was part of the Warner Brothers strategy. I thought that they
It
have a
definitely
very solid marketing model, and they know how much they spend on print, on TV, on this and that, and I'm not seeing it.
Yeah, and I mean that's what they did. I mean, the Suicide Squad, that trailer was amazing, and then we all saw the movie. But like they definitely are good at I guess that's what shocked me is that they're so good at trailers and promoting and putting it out there. And this movie, Wonder Woman, just has not been put out there, which makes me wonder, like you said, maybe it's like going to be one of those amazing movies that they're just like, yeah, word of mouth is going to sell this bitch. Like this is pun intended, I guess. That was kind of sexist and awful, but I didn't
It's
mean
okay.
But-
I didn't really notice the moment until you took the time to emphasize it.
Okay, well, let me take one more moment to emphasize this. What I said was, no, I'm just kidding. But yeah, that's what I wondered when I saw it, because I saw the trailer just recently, like 2 days ago. Someone showed it to me, and I was like, oh man, I don't know what this movie is about. I don't know what's happening in it. It literally looks like we're getting an origin story, and then she fights Nazis, and that's it. There's no bad guy. There's no real trouble happening. It's just Wonder Woman. So I was curious what your take on it was, because maybe you knew something that I didn't know.
No, I literally have no idea. I have no expectations. The only thing I know about it is that Chris Pine crashes in the ocean, and that's how she learns about the rest of the world, and then feels like she has to do something, and then steals all the really cool gear, because clearly you're not clawing into a rock with your hand because people are letting you take the things that you're about to take. So there's obviously a lot about whatever the big antagonist is for this, or it may be known. Maybe we're just the ones
The ignorant ones.
Yeah, we just don't know because we haven't learned. We haven't taken the time to look. But then again,
Exactly.
you know, we kind of like, how much of Batman v Superman did we see by the time that was released? I mean, that was a real heavy crunch. Maybe it's I'm hoping it's a lesson, and they've got a great movie. Because honestly, the coolest thing of Batman v Superman was Wonder Woman's theme. That was really it. When she would come on the screen and the guitar would start jamming to a more kind of tribal sound, it was just like, okay, I'm in.
Hell yeah.
And
Yeah,
the
I
trailers
mean,
have so little of that.
And for me, I don't watch trailers very often anymore because I'm I, we live in this world where everyone puts out their critique of everything in, dude, that was awesome on Facebook, or dude, that sucked on Facebook. So I've tried to just ignore everything anyone says because it ruins everything for me. Like Logan was completely ruined for me because I had 10 people tell me that it was a movie that I needed to go see right now and it was made for me. And then I went and saw it and I'm like, it's good, it's fine, but it didn't make me cry. It wasn't the dad movie I wanted.
No.
So like that's all I wanted from that movie was the professional with a dude with blades in his hands. And that's not what I got. But
Yeah, there was kind of never that connection. Right?
they could have had it, man. They could have had it. It was so damn close. There were so many moments where I was like, this is where they're gonna get me. This is where I'm gonna tear up right now. And then they just walk away from each other and nothing would happen. And it was just the first half of the movie I was into the Xavier and Logan stuff. I'm like, okay, so this can be a father son movie. I can get into this, and obviously that changed. So like I don't know, I guess the moral of this is or the idea that I'm trying to say is maybe Wonder Woman has something with not doing the trailers, because trailers and word of mouth and all of it sucks. Just let me go see a movie that I don't know about. I'm hoping people just go like, it's good, go check it out, and then I watch it and I dig it. Like is kind of happening with this Alien movie that I'm going to see on Friday.
Oh, is that the Alien Covenant or whatever it is?
Yeah, I'm going to that on Friday. I'm a huge Alien fan, so I'm amped. I'm psyched.
I was, and I admit that was it Alien Resurrection? That was the one that Whedon wrote, I think, or
yeah.
That one won me back after the weirdness of three, for example. Like I don't know what happened there, especially.
Oh yeah, 3. That's an amazing story. 3. If folks haven't heard it, go look it up because that movie fell apart. Fincher it was his first movie, and the studio got all involved, and it was just a sloppy mess of he didn't even have a script on the first days of shooting, and it's insane. So go look up that story. But Resurrection, yeah, that was Joss Whedon, and it was directed by Jean-Pierre Jeunet.
Yeah, but then there was whatever the hell Prometheus was.
See, I love Prometheus. I know I'm in the definite minority with this. I love Prometheus because I love the religious element to the movie where it gets into like gods creating humans and humans creating AI and this like mesh, but it's not an alien movie. Like, it has nothing to do with the Alien series.
Well, that's not completely true. There is a very mild connection to it. For example, but the thing that I thankfully I took my nephew to see it, who was staying with us at the time, and he's the one that explained to me what they were cashing in on, which is the whole ancient aliens thing or whatever it is, where it's like all of our predecessors were aliens that brought life here.
Yep.
And I hadn't even thought about that, but the implications that the movie have really messed with my head. For example, the fact that we may have been their creation, but then the implication was that when man crucified Jesus was one of these father creator aliens, and the moment their creation killed one of them, everything went apeshit because it was so unnatural. So I'm like, wait a minute. So what they're saying is we are, and maybe that's what threw me, is it was kind of communicating that we were an abomination as far as our creator was concerned.
Yes, that's what I love about it.
Oh, well, I'm glad I could tap into that reality for you.
Yes, that's exactly what I love about it, that it is about our creator going like, oh, we fucked up. That's amazing to me. There's something just so metal about that.
Well, and do you have any vibe yet on what Covenant's all about?
So I've tried to stay away from it as much as possible. It definitely is more. It is an alien movie, like 100%. Prometheus, while there is an alien in it and it references the engineers from the original movie and stuff like that.
Engineers. See, that's
Yeah, this is like such a small piece of Prometheus. When he wrote the script, he didn't write it to be an alien movie, he has said. So it was just written as a different movie, and then he kind of like brought these characters together into it and whatever. Now this Covenant is an alien movie. 100% it's about aliens. I'm curious how it's going to tie into Prometheus and play some of that stuff still, but I think overall from what I've heard, it's much more of just an alien movie.
Like
it's
all I
it's
want to know
more-
is, do they once again find a really old ship?
I don't know if they do or not. I mean, like they don't. No. Well, I guess I don't know. I don't know that much about the movie. I've
Yeah.
just seen the trailers,
don't
and
know either.
I know it's about colonizing. People have to go to another planet to colonize. So it's like husbands and wives going through space to go bang on another planet. Basically,
Yeah,
is what it sounds like.
make some
Yeah.
new life.
Oh yeah, new
Right?
life.
All about it.
That's all I know. But it's gonna be aliens killing people, and that'll. Honestly, I'm just hoping for kind of like a popcorn horror film.
Now, hopefully, something more in line and in tone with the first Alien movie.
Yeah, or even a little bit more action, like Aliens, like the second one. I could be down for either. I'm open-minded as far as this one goes.
That's the funny thing about Aliens, which there's one or two generations that consider that just to be an amazing movie. I admit I haven't seen it in a few years, so I don't know if it holds up for me.
Oh, it does so much.
Yeah,
For me, it does. Oh my god,
I'm
I love
hoping
that.
because I do want to watch it again. But the funny thing about that movie was that I think it was just like Cameron was getting offers, and it was just like a throwaway. They're like, "What would you do?" Or they had the option of another Alien movie, and it was just like an aside that he cashed in on. And he ended up making just this big mega hit that spawned so much. Like, especially there were comic books tie-ins and all kinds of nutty things.
Yeah, well, it's just he took it's going back to the simple concept mentality. He took very simple concepts. Army men get thrown into fucking monster pit. Like that's all that movie is. And then he was like, "You want to know what I like? Strong chicks. I'm going to put a strong chick and have a maternal element to this movie." And then he went, "What if the strong chick fought a strong monster chick?" And that's the movie. And it is like a statement on feminism and maternal instinct in its own right. I mean, it is a mama bear fighting for her cub in that movie.
And come to think of it, just about every one of the guys has an agenda or is an absolute dick.
Exactly. Like they're parodies. They're fun to watch because they're parodies of like typical dudes. You got this guy, and this guy, and they're fun because they're written in a fun way. But yeah, it's like Ripley is the only one where she's a layered character who has all of these different facets, and her whole life like two facets to her character's personality. And then in the end, you just get to watch her literally walk into a room and go, "Get away from her, you bitch!" And it's just brutal. Like it's
and not to mention weaponizing a suit that was just supposed to be used for mundane work.
Carry boxes,
right?
Like I'm literally carrying boxes around, and then she kills an alien with it.
Yeah, it's all good shit, man. Now, well, there you go. There's the takeaway. Go see Guardians of the Galaxy and then rewatch Aliens. That's where we are. That's what we made this journey to get to, Josh.
Hell yeah. Movie talk.
Anyway, man, do me a favor. Remind everybody where they can find out more about you. Tell them where to find you and where you want them to go.
Okay, so really quickly, I'll do my little pitch here. So go to patreon.com/flushstudios. Basically, it's a subscription-based website where you can, for $1, you can follow me, and you can actually go through a bunch of stuff for free. I have podcasts for free, some videos are free and stuff. But for $1 a month, you can follow me and see everything I'm doing. I post live streams of animating. I show behind the scenes of filming. I do live streams of filming.
We never talked about what was happening after Art Attack on your morning show.
I'm going to be doing in August, I'm going to be doing a morning show. I have the 3 days I talked about. Then on Thursday, I'm doing what I call a doodle show, where I'm going to just doodle whatever people want me to doodle. It'll be a live stream, and you can write in, like, draw Kevin Smith, and I'll draw Kevin Smith. Or draw Iron Man, and I'll draw Iron Man. Or draw Will, and I'll draw Will. Whatever you want me to draw, I'll just
Nobody ask for that, please.
and I'll just bullshit while I do it. And then on Friday, I'm going to have friends of mine over to my place, and we're going to do like Bloody Mary bullshit sessions where we have Bloody Marys Friday mornings, and we just, kind of start the weekend early and bullshit about whatever we want. It's not an interview. It's not no topics thought up in advance. It's just a conversation.
Oh my gosh. You found a way to bring day drinking into it, you genius.
Yeah, so day drinking will occur. So that's like the morning show, and then throughout the week, that's not happening yet. Right now, I only have the Art Attack show gets posted on Monday mornings, and the podcast with my wife is just called Josh and Jenny Conversate. It used to be called the Inevitable Divorce Podcast, but that kind of changed.
Well, that's good.
Well, we call it the Inevitable Divorce Podcast as well, but I don't like using the term podcast because technically they're not podcasts. They're just MP3s on the Patreon. I don't have like an RSS feed for them or anything yet.
Now you're just getting way too detailed.
I know. So it's called Josh and Jenny Conversate. Those come out on Wednesdays. And then I post on Tuesdays and Fridays. They're called Flush Diaries, but diary is spelled like diarrhea without an A at the end. But those are just, I film with my phone throughout the day or my camera, and I just film random shit, and then I edit it together on the bus into kind of, Robert Rodriguez wrote this book called, oh my God, I can't believe I'm forgetting this. It's called Rebel Without a Crew, and it is just his diary from El Mariachi. It's idea. It's just my diary. This is literally, you're just seeing what I'm working on, and on screen I type, working on this thing today, this fucked up thing happened, and it's what happened throughout my day. So you can be a part of my process and maybe see where ideas come from, whatever. So you could be a part of it. All this is for $1. You subscribe for $1 to my Patreon and you get to see it. And then there's short films and stuff. I have Chum is a short film about a monster. Stalking, it's a short film about a monster. Identical, it's a short film about a monster. Actually, that one's not about a monster. It's about snowflakes. But yeah, you can see my short films on there. So patreon.com/flushstudios. That's my spiel.
There you go, man. Oh, I just bounced my keyboard for no reason. Anyway, folks, that's it for us this week. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you for listening, Josh. Thanks for joining in. And who knows, we may be doing it again this weekend, too, for another episode. You never know, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna be at a comic convention this Saturday. So if we do one on Saturday, I could have some fun stories, perhaps.
Oh, that'd be cool. Or you can just, you can have that post-con voice. It's a little crackly and you're you're still trying to acclimate from the lack of constant noise in the background.
Yeah, totally.
Fun.
I'm just like, it's so fucking quiet in here.
Oh my gosh, you guys won't believe what I've been through today. No, that'd be good though. That'd be interesting. So hopefully, we'll see. I got commitments. You got commitments. Who knows? I don't know. I don't know anything. But until next time, folks. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you for listening. My name is Will.
I'm Josh.
And you've been listening. Oh, and we'll be back. And then you go soon. That's, I think, the way it works.
Soon.
Or we just say we'll be back. Yeah, I don't know. You know what? Just cue the damn music.
Cue it.
I'm trying.
Cue that shit.
Why is it not working? And now it's not working. That's cute. Let me try one more time.
This is NetHeads with Will Wilkins and Trent Hunsaker signing off.
I know, right? But stop being a little Nancy and deal with it.
NetHeads. We'll be back soon.
Goodbye.
This has been a production of Smodco Internet Radio. Sir, only at smodcast.com.
My favorite thing when I listen back on this now, or when I go to cut it or what have you, because I know you can hear it on the YouTube, because you can't really do anything with YouTube after it's been recorded. That's one of their things. Nobody's going to go in and take down your video and replace it with something else if they compromise your account, or you're not going to get something approved. And then anyway, long story short, my favorite thing to listen back on is when you hear me hitting keys because I'm frantically trying to get another sound to play, and it's not happening. And I'm like, click, click, what's wrong? Oh, I'm in the wrong window. Oh, no. So that's become my new fun thing to listen to.
Yeah, and you know it's happening. Like I didn't never notice that was happening, but except for at the very end, I can watch you on the screen, but I'm sure it drives you nuts.
Little bit. But you know what? It's all par for the course. Oh, see, wrong window again.
Part of being a pro.
Yeah, totally.